Hey, so this is becoming a data baddie or daddy. It's essentially going to be all about data driven marketing, specifically in crypto. Everything I've learned in the last 3 years, either for my own personal experiments as well as what we've done for clients. This is for everyone that wasn't able to make it to DevCon and did not go to GTMCon or the Kaito Growth Con. I really wanted to record this so I could explain some of the nuances, narrate the slides, and also ensure that you leave with tangible insights on what to do, how to do it, the tools to use, and full context of everyone that also went to GTMCon today. So let me get into it. A little bit about me. I'm Emily. I'm the CMO of Hype. We're a full service go-to-market crypto native agency. I've personally been in crypto marketing for 3 years, but all of my career has been in marketing. I first got into it from opening a Dropify or drop shipping store in Shopify, and this allowed me to realize the world of digital marketing, which included landing pages, copywriting, lifecycle, email marketing, PR, paid ads. And from there, I realized everything can be tracked. And that led me into my path. I started at two agencies, non-crypto, before I joined Hype. And these experiences put me front and center as a media buyer, a growth consultant for e-commerce, startups, SaaS, and apps. A lot of my experience and learnings about data, how to use data, the tools to use it, came from these non-crypto marketing experiences that I've had in my career. And when I first joined Hype, I really looked to understand how can we be more data driven here, because nobody was really using data. And you'll see some early examples of what we used when I first started. I think it was a bit of an overkill at that time. So today there's going to be a lot more simplified versions just so you get real ways to track, measure, and make decisions. I also spend way too much time on X. That might be where you found this video from or where you know me from. I really have put more intentionality in posting about marketing, also because of the stats and data that I see. So let's get into it, and you can learn how to do this for your own self or for your company. Just a bit about Hype. We're a on-chain super agency. Mainly, we are known as a crypto native marketing agency. So we're usually helping out with campaigns, rebrands, launches. We also have recruiting. We cover most service lines, anything from DevRel to social media to community and events. All right, so the contents we're going to go through today are: number one, why should I care? Why should you care? Becoming a data baddie or daddy, whatever you want to identify as, maybe both. We'll touch on funnels. We're going to go over what to track, how to track it, and what do you do with these numbers? So you have all these numbers now, what do you do with them? And we'll also go through real life examples. Okay, so why should you care? Why do I care? I mean, there could be many reasons. You could be doing it for glory. Maybe you want to become, maybe you want to go on Forbes 30 under 30, who knows? Really, at the end of the day though, if you want to become a better marketer, being data driven is the way to go. Ultimately, if you want to grow, if you want to understand why you're growing, why you're not growing, if you want to see a number go up, being data driven is the way to go. And doing this will also allow you to impress your team, earn trust from your team, and all the other things that maybe are just a tangent. But ultimately, learning about how to use data in marketing makes you a better marketer. So what even is data-driven marketing? This is a definition from Google. It goes over growth marketing. So growth marketing is a process of using data gained through marketing campaigns and experimentation to drive growth. It can help you anticipate change and plan your strategies to make constant improvements. I just distilled this down to 3 things. Number one, numbers tell stories, numbers make up data, and data informs what actions to take. So this process of being data-driven, it allows you to understand what should you be doing next, what are you not doing enough of, what should you be doing more of. You can also use data in research, and that can help inform what bets or risk you should make, which is something that you need to do as a marketer. All right, So the bulk of this is becoming a data baddie or daddy. We're going to get into how you do this, where to start. So high level, I really want to touch on funnels, and I just want to simplify it down and explain that everything in life is a journey, whether you're going to the supermarket, whether I'm making it my way to Bangkok for DevCon, there's always steps and stages I need to do to get there. And luckily, marketing is a lot more simple than life. There's less variables, there's less emotions, there's a conditional narrowness to what we do. We know exactly why we're doing or why we're building this business. We know what it is, we know how the tech works, we know who we need to reach. So we have all of these variables, whereas life is a lot more complicated and complex. And the game of life here is just an example to show that it can be fun, or it's seen as fun when you have these conditions and variables as you see in this in the board game. On the left, you have the traditional marketing funnel. We'll also dive into that a bit more. But ultimately, if there's stages, it can be tracked and measured. And you can also be measuring how people move through those stages. So everything is a journey. And there is a journey that a user takes to discover who you are, learn about you, decide to take action, become a customer or not, or tell their friends. So this is the classic AAARRR funnel. It's also known as pirate metrics because of the R. And the idea of this is that everyone, to even get to this end point here on the right, everyone needs to start on that left stage of awareness, understanding the top of funnel. That's a term you might have heard before. Top of funnel awareness and brand awareness, understanding who are you, and even having that first impression of you or your company or your business. And then they move through the funnel, whether that is, we'll go through it right now actually. So this is a crypto example. And what I've done here is I've overlaid multiple funnels because there usually are going to be multiple funnels. And there's also so many different types of companies. Some companies are purely B2B. Maybe you're only infra, no token, and you purely just need to do integrations with other projects. If you are an ecosystem or you're infra with a token, you have both audiences, B2B as well as B2C, and retail is very different than developers. In the Web2 world, it's less nuanced. Usually it's a bit more direct, in e-commerce especially. For example, if I'm selling dog food, I know I'm going to reach dog owners, or if I'm selling snowboards, I'm going to reach snowboarders. But in crypto, there is a bit more nuance. So I know the slide looks a little overwhelming. There's a ton of words on it, but the idea here is that everything has stages of a user journey, and there could be multiple, but each one of them are trackable and measurable. And by tracking and measuring it, it also helps give you a sense of calm. It gives you a sense of calm because you understand what is happening, if people are dropping off in a certain stage, which stage is it, why, and if they are moving along, how can you find more people similar to that, or understand what is motivating and influencing them to do so, so you can optimize it. So high level awareness could be anything on X, open social, creative campaigns. It could also be PR. In the Web2 world, it can mean paid ads. It could mean an email acquisition funnel or podcast. The actual acquisition side in crypto, I look at it as that first initial step to cement the relationship. It doesn't mean that the relationship will start, but it means somebody is following you on X, or they join your ambassador program, or maybe they enter your Discord or Telegram. The activation stage is where they're taking an actual action item. It's kind of moving it to the next stage. If you're an ecosystem, the last step is acquiring developers, so signing them up for a hackathon or getting them onto your docs, and maybe activation is when they start building an app. For retail, it could mean depositing, bridging, minting. Revenue is what it sounds like. It's when you are having some type of financial, monetary conversion moment. I also added create DApp here. So when a DApp is finished from a developer, I could see that as revenue because that is what is driving more eyeballs from retail if you are a chain. but at the end of the day, it usually means purchase or even a swap as there's fees. Referral is when people are sharing your product. A really common example is a lot of food delivery apps or transportation apps like Uber. If you refer a friend, you'll get a discount. And I'm going to make sure I can move my head around and you can see this. The very last one is retention. So ideally, this is looking at how many people or how often people are repeating transactions. Maybe they're doing swaps every day. Amazing. Maybe they're reopening the app. I know that I use X nearly every day for hours, so I definitely am retained there. The idea of this is that really understanding the stages, and if you're wondering, why is there nobody minting our NFT, then you can likely assume that one of the stages before activation or revenue is not working, and you need to look into how do you focus there and optimize it so people are moving through the funnel. On the bottom are example measurements. So some of these can be anything from impressions or mindshare with Kaito. I'll show screenshots of how that looks later. You can use native analytics via the platforms you're using, whether that is Discord, Telegram, X if you have premium, Facebook, Meta, Google, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever the case is, they usually have native analytics. And as you go through this, you can see there's always a mixture of quantity as well as, quantity, volumes. Sometimes you can also combine metrics together to get things like conversion rate. So, for example, number of people that have made a swap on our platform versus number of impressions. If you divide swap divided by impressions, that would be your conversion rate. So through these practices and exercises, I just want to encourage everyone to start with understanding that everything fits into a certain stage, and you can identify the different metrics and action items that you'd like people to take in those stages and measure those. Okay. All right. So this is actually just a zoom out that the previous slide you saw, super condensed. There's multiple user journeys overlaid. And the idea of this is that you can get really granular with how you track, and you can also zoom out. It can be as simple as, let's only track mindshare on Twitter. Let's track how many people land on our website, and let's track if people are bridging or making swaps or depositing. And you can ignore kind of the noise. I will show some tools later on how you can see the full picture, but the most important thing is that you are tracking the biggest catalytic moments of users going through the journey. And the main thing I want to share here is that numbers can be overwhelming. I remember the first pivot table I saw at my first agency. There was a mentor I learned from who was really good at Excel. And there were so many numbers. It was really, really overwhelming for me to understand all of the different rows and columns. And at the end of the day, again, numbers tell a story. So you want to make sure that you are capturing the most important numbers that make sense for you and your business. What this could mean is if your product is not ready yet, maybe capturing interest somewhere else versus looking at the website. Or if your website is in stealth mode and you only have a wait list there, maybe it's purely looking at waitlist signups relative to X mindshare. So every user goes through a journey. You can measure and track each stage. Don't overthink it. I know with frameworks, they can be a bit complicated or feel complicated. They're really just a foundational starting point with how you apply this to yourself or your business. And your main goal is to make sure that people are moving through the user journey. And if they're not, you understand why so you can improve it. Okay, so let's start with what do I track? I gave you an example of the funnels with all of the different metrics and possible actions in each of those stages, but how do you make this apply to your personal self or your business and company? So I always try to teach everyone on our team or talk to other marketers or founders that it really comes down to asking the right questions. So get curious and ask questions. I'll give you some examples of questions. This is a really, really wordy slide, but really a lot of my discovery on tools and thinking about what I want to see comes from asking questions. So for example, on X, maybe it's how can I get my tweets to show up on your screen more? How can I make sure people find my Twitter or find Hype's Twitter? Is this content piece? Is this tweet a banger? Is this blog a banger? Is this newsletter that I'm putting out? What is the reception? If I'm a podcaster, does this topic have a better reception than another topic? What is my brand perception? What do people think of me or Hype or any other company? And are people following, engaging, or using the product? All of these questions can actually be answered with data, but it always starts with, what do you want to see? And for me, what do I want to see? The way I think about it is, what if I have a end goal in mind, whether that is we need more people to bridge over to our protocol, or we need more developers, I need to think about, where do those developers exist online? How do I reach them? And am I reaching them or not? So I kind of reverse engineer from the end goal all of these different questions relative to the different stages or channels and different parts of the funnel. And that allows me to better understand. For Discord, it could be things like, is this even a real community? Why are people here? If they are, like, how much time are they spending? And what are they talking about? What channels are they possibly in? If they're part of events, which events are the most interesting? For the website, it could be, are people actually understanding what we even do? Are they signing up? If they're not, why? Are developers clicking through the docs? Do they understand the docs? If they're not, what do we need to improve, add, or delete? On the product side, which is this fourth one here, are people actually using the product? Are they a paying customer, or are they just registering and leaving? How many of them actually made a net positive revenue? Do people even like this product? Do even people like the product? Says, do people even like me? I think that's better said on like the founder branding side. But yeah, do people even like the product? On chain is this last piece. I think this is an extra nuance with crypto marketing. And, in Web2 marketing, even in crypto marketing, if you're doing podcasts, if you're doing events, if you're doing email, all of that can be tracked. PR, SEO, all of that can be tracked as well. So again, this isn't a template just to apply to your business. There could be other channels, but the point is that everything here can be tracked. And if you ask the right questions to reverse engineer your goal, you can better understand what measurements, what KPIs you need to track, and how to track it. So this last one is on-chain, and on-chain data, some questions that could come up that could lead you down this path are, how is my ecosystem compared towards other ecosystems? How is it comparing towards Base? When should we be launching? How are these testnet numbers stacking up to past testnet numbers? Should we go live with mainnet now or later? So is the value on-chain growing? All right, so how do you actually track these things? We're going to talk about tools for a little bit. For socials, I think X native analytics can cover a lot of things. And everything I have highlighted here are tools that I use daily or recommend. And I will touch on product because if you have products like a web app or mobile app, you need to have a tool. I love using all three of these: Mixpanel, Amplitude, AppsFlyer. I'll touch on PostHog as well. But high level, so now that you understand what questions you're trying to ask, you understand that you're trying to move people through this funnel, and you have an idea of what metrics you need to track. Now, I would usually go and search, ask other marketers to understand, hey, is there a tool that can do this? But here I have it for you. So socials, I usually just use native analytics from X. I also use Kaito for just mindshare sentiment. I can use this personally for myself, but we usually are using this for research, and we're also using this for measuring what is the total amount of attention that we're getting for our clients. And it's a really great tool for X because it benchmarks against the rest of crypto Twitter. It's scraping crypto Twitter and labeling things. You can use Dune Analytics for open social, like Lens or Farcaster. I highly recommend platform native analytics. You'll see that here also under Discord. There are bots that you can use as well. And if you're using a questing tool, Galaxy, Zili, these are really Intract, they're really common. They will have native analytics as well. Same if you're using DevPost for hackathons, or even events like Luma has its own analytics. So always use native analytics and if you have the option, install Google Analytics, which is what I have here on website, there are many projects that have came to me or came to Hype, and there is no Google Analytics installed, and it makes me really emotional because it's free. It's so easy to put on your website, and there's a wealth of data you can get from that, which I'll show you afterwards. Microsoft Clarity underneath Google Analytics is free. It's from Microsoft. It's very similar to Hotjar, where it's recording all of the different sessions. And you can also see things like heat maps, see where people scroll down, where they drop off. If you are a privacy-first project and you're really mindful of tracking GDPR, Matimo and PostHog are really good options. They're privacy first. PostHog is open source. GitHub I put here just as a reminder that if you are capturing dev attention, looking at GitHub repos, npm installs, pram, just to see if people are going from developer docs over to actually building. And then products. So if you have an iOS or Google Play Store app, you need to have AppsFlyer or some type of mobile analytics tool. This will give you things like where are people finding the app from, how many people are downloading it, if they are downloading it, what are they doing, how much time is spent, how many times they are reopening it. Amplitude and Mixpanel are really similar, but for web app. So you can track in-app events. Anything from sign up to swap to deposit to bridge to retention to people that have done multiple events in a day or a time period, essentially categorizing them as a high quality user. PostHog does this as well. PostHog is very customizable. So if you have someone a bit more technical or a data scientist on your team, you actually use PostHog to integrate with your server as well as APIs and build a custom dashboard. And on the on-chain side, so there's a lot of free tools out there, things like DeFi Llama, Token Terminal, L2 Beats, that will tell you things like chain usage, volume, transactions, TVL. You can see this across the board because everything is on-chain, so it's public facing. You can also search on Dune, and there could be people that have built dashboards. So for example, I recently searched the social graph for Lens, and it allowed me to put in my personal Lens handle and just spit out a ton of stats. And this is public facing, so I could do this for anyone. There is also blockchain explorers as a service. So Etherscan is the common one for Ethereum, and you can see things like blocks, last transactions, number of wallets. There are services that do this for you, like BlockScout, and Flipside Crypto is another competitor to Dune Analytics. They can also customize dashboards for you, so you can get on-chain data. On the bottom here, I am shouting out Cookie3 and Safari. They are analytics and attribution tools that help you track the full journey from where people came from over to the website and Wallet Connect over to on-chain actions. So the only caveat I would call out for them is I would use this as an addition, not as a replacement. I really like to see, Google Analytics and looking at native analytics kind of as a catch-all. So you have one main source of truth and you also have backups. And then the very bottom line, there is another arrow, and this is just an advanced mode. So we used to build Tableau dashboards at Hype, and I'll show you some examples later. And they're essentially, these are business intelligence tools. So there's Tableau, Domo, Looker from Google, and multiple others that allow you, similar to PostHog, to connect multiple data sources. It could be from CSV, it could be anything within the API, it could be from your server, it can be scraping things, putting it onto a sheet, uploading it, and you can essentially rearrange the data to better tell a story. All right, so now you have all these random numbers in different places. What do you do with it? How do you actually get insights? And this is something that I think is so important because I have ran into marketers that they know how to read the data, meaning they know how to get the numbers and put numbers in boxes, but they might not actually know what to do with it and how to make the data useful. So these are just some starting questions. There could be many more. Like I mentioned, there's things like PR, SEO, email, podcasts that aren't on here, but you can take a look at these questions, come up with your own that are applicable to your business. But for example, on socials, when I look at the premium analytics, I know how well are people perceiving spaces every time we post them on Hype. We do weekly spaces, and we can track things like impressions, listeners, people that have tuned in, people that have shared it. And all of these are signals, and they tell us a story. So it could tell you things like, what content should I post more of? What should I be doing more of? Are people reacting positively or negatively? How do we look relative to other competitors? There is also a graph here on the left where I'm using Kaito. We use it a lot at Hype, mainly for research to understand and create a strategy, as well as measurement. But there are a ton of other cool things that you can do with it, such as searching for your mindshare if you are labeled as somebody that just yaps on crypto Twitter all the time, which apparently I am. And you can also search this for other people that are constant yappers, and it will tell you how they rank. And maybe you can use this data for doing some reaching out for partnerships or thought leaders or partners in general. On the community side, you can look at data from Discord or Telegram, see who is the most active, and maybe do a retro. You can also understand what do users actually want. Maybe you have a channel just set up for user feedback. If you have any negative sentiment, you could capture that and understand what are objections that maybe we should take onto other channels for comms. And if people are saying the same thing or there's some patterns, whether it's new features, questions, desires, all of this can be used and acted on, whether it's in product or communicating more directly or communicating it on another channel. I think a really good example too is looking at what people are saying about you. If there's a certain phrase or tagline that you're seeing being repeated a lot, Gmove is one, modularity with Celestia, you can co-create with the people saying this and really double down on it. But it really starts with understanding and knowing what is even happening out there. And that's where measuring and tracking helps. On the website, there's so many things that you can do with data. You can know, is the headline working? Do I need to change the site? Do I need to change where the buttons are? Do I need to simplify things down? I can understand if builders are understanding the documents. I can infer that by, are they actually doing what we want them to do, which is installing the param or npms? Are they starting to build? You can also understand, does the positioning make sense? Maybe multiple people that you've recorded on your site get stuck somewhere and then they just leave. So maybe that part of that website could be edited and adjusted. On the product side, is the sign-up flow way too long? Or is the onboarding so short it doesn't make sense? You can track data to see how people are moving through the funnel. Maybe you start them with a free trial and you want them to purchase, but it's not happening. So understanding when they stop using the product allows you to optimize the product and make it even better. If people are not doing an action you want to take, product analytics will help you understand why so you can optimize it. And on-chain data, whether that's DevNet, testnet, mainnet, or anything else with some type of blockchain component, you can understand things like, where are people bridging from? Maybe we should partner with these ecosystems. Who should we be rewarding? So you can actually look at data to understand who you should be rewarding, who is not sibling, who is actually being an evangelist or a dedicated user, which dApps are people using and are most retained on. So these are just an example set of questions that you can take actionable marketing actions or decisions by asking questions like this, finding the data, and going from there. Okay, so we're going to move into real life examples. All right, this very first one is a personal marketing experiment that I did where I spun up a little Notion site. I put in all of the marketing events happening at DevCon this year, 2024 November, and all I did was installed Google Analytics. I looked at X native analytics and Luma, which is where a lot of these events are hosted, their native analytics. And some questions I was curious about were mainly like, out of everyone that sees a Twitter post, what percentage of them will actually make out of what percent of them will actually take action. So in this case, it was how many people who see my post will click. What is the click-through rate? Is this website actually useful? A way to answer that is understanding, are they signing up? Are they clicking around? Are they just bouncing on the first 5 seconds, or are they actually staying? What are they interested in? And I was also really curious, where were people coming from? This is just a collection of screenshots across Twitter Analytics, Google Analytics, and Luma. So really together, this paints a story of what happened. And this is what I mean by numbers tell stories. Yeah, numbers tell stories. I think it's kind of like words, right? Words tell stories, but if I say words in an incoherent order, the story doesn't make sense. So you just need to know how to piece together the data and the numbers. On the very top left here, this is all of the users that ended up on the site. And what's really interesting is you can see a line chart, so you can tell, I launched this around the 25th. That's the day with the highest peak, and it's been down only from there. And to understand click-through rate, it's as simple as how many people ended up on the website relative to how many impressions. So on the bottom left here, this is the number of impressions on the X post. This is purely just the post analytics. And Twitter native does not have click-through rate or link clicks. It does if you're running paid ads there, but on organic, it does not. There are cases where there are channels. Yeah, I don't know if Instagram has it, but there are channels where it will tell you post clicks. And it's just always interesting to compare it and agree on a source of truth. So in this case, I would look at Google as a source of truth, Google Analytics as a source of truth of how many actual users ended up on the website. So if you divide 928 divided by 17.2K, you're going to get about 2.7%. That could be actually totally wrong. That was something I wrote in an old post, but maybe there's more users now, and I cannot do division that fast in my head. I don't think I can divide that in my head at all without a calculator. But that will get you click-through rate. And if you want to get true conversion rate, you could, technically go to the Luma of whatever. Yeah, the Luma, kind of like here on the bottom right. Attribution is completely wrong. So if you want to get very, very close to it, Luma allows you to put in custom links. And maybe I only have this one link on the Notion site. So I know everyone that signed up on this link came from this website who came from Twitter. And it does get a bit more complicated, right? Because on the right here, I actually had 2 different domains. I know I posted one domain on LinkedIn, another on Twitter. So this was my way of just splitting things up a little bit. But if people were to share the link, I wouldn't know. So you are seeing there are some people that came through organically, which is interesting. There's some from Warpcast, Telegram, and not set just means that, yeah, maybe they are completely private, or direct none, people that just had the website and came in directly. But you can see here that there's a total of 932 in this screenshot, and this is split by channels. So Twitter is the top here, which makes sense. That's where I have the most distribution, and then the 2 different sites. This is, yeah, this was really interesting for me. So when I first posted it, I was watching the live users, and most of them were in the US, and it's really cool to see that a lot of the world is lit up. I need to do better in Africa. It's fairly gray there, but it's really cool. It just validates that crypto is completely remote, and I found it really interesting that there's more people coming from Croatia than the US. I'm not sure if people are routing to Croatia on their VPN, but yeah, that was really interesting to me. And on the bottom, so you can get really advanced with Google Analytics and tag everything as events. I did not do any of that. I just installed it on the Notion page. But here, these are all the different page paths. So page URLs. So anytime somebody clicked on something on the website, they go to another page essentially. So you can see that 81 people clicked on the DevCon marketing event. This is essentially to show how many people were interested in these different events and click through. There's a ton of other stats that aren't here, but you can look at things like how much time have people spent on the website on average, and how many people are coming from mobile versus desktop. Does mobile versus desktop have a differentiation with time spent or how many pages people visit? All of this can help optimize things such as, hey, maybe we need to make the font bigger on mobile, or maybe we need to add a menu bar or a search bar. So that's just an example here. Okay, this is a personal example. I know many people are now looking into founder-led comms or their personal brands. So everything here is actually native analytics. And if you are a marketer or you're on the marketing team and you are doing social, make sure if you're delegated access via Twitter versus logging in directly, that you have admin permissions. So you can see the content tab right here, which is on the right. So on the left here is just the overview. What's really cool is you can look at things by a custom time range. You can also set 2 line graphs. So something that's funny or interesting to me is a few months ago, it's not on this chart, I went viral. I got 3 million or so views on one post, but it gave me no followers because it went outside of crypto Twitter. And I think it reached an audience where if they came to my profile and they just saw I post about marketing all the time, it's like, okay, this is not my vibe. Let me get out of here. Let me 180. But usually you can see there's days where, okay, I got a ton of followers here. I don't know why, but maybe I get curious and I'm like, why did I get so little impressions but so many followers? And I can hyper focus on that day, see what content was posted and understand and see if I should double down on that. On the bottom here, there's a few things that I see with these numbers, and some of them are kind of grouped together, but the value of content. So are people learning from the content? Are they entertained? This can happen with educational content. It can happen with memes. It can happen with content that people want to save to read later. And I look at bookmarks as a high signal of this. I also look at reposts as quality of content because that's someone either wanting to represent it themselves and post it on their profile, or maybe it's someone that you've collaborated with. Profile visits is a way I understand how discoverable was I. So it's directly correlated with impressions, of course. This is the last 3 months, but I was going to say, for example, the last post you saw where I showed the website, it had 17,000 impressions, but I have way less followers than that. So profile visits are a way that I understand, okay, how many people actually found me? Did this tweet did the algorithm gods reward my tweet? And did it exit the circle bigger than my followers? And in replies, it's as simple as asking, is it engaging? I think replies are a way higher metric than likes. They also help you with the algorithm as of today. I mean, it could change at any time. On the right here, so an actual tangible way I use this is you can go into the content side, you can filter by post, and you can see in the last 3 months, I filtered everything by top impressions. And what has gotten the most impressions for me in the last 3 months is it's literally when I yap about marketing. So that's all I do now. All I do is yap about marketing because it's what's been working. People seem to really like this intern tweet, and then the Telegram mini app. So it's also interesting. People like seeing data, I guess. There's graphs here. So this is just a signal to me of, okay, this is the content that is working. People like this. It might be helpful. Maybe it's not. Maybe it might be helpful. So maybe I should do more. And that is what I've been doing. And the profile has been growing based off that as well. These are both in the same time frames. Okay. Another example I call this Team Riz, and I really want to shout out Eclipse and what they're doing. I did this presentation with Nate from the team. He is one of the I think that's him right here. Is that an otter? He's the otter or seal with hats. And essentially, this is a Kaito screenshot. And yeah, let me just pause for a little bit and say, on stage, I had Nate present this slide because he was there, and I was like, Nate, it will be so much better if you just explained what happened. But as a marketer, admiring what they've done, I put different screenshots together, and I will go through kind of my perception and call out and highlight what I think they've done really great at, which is ultimately something that Polina also called out. She made this graphic, and you can tell that they have grown in a ton of, like, they're at all-time peak sentiment. And this is mindshare down here. Let's focus on sentiment analysis, though. It's just, they just launched mainnet. You can see it's been up only. Apparently, their whole team started tweeting different topics and owning different niches to reach different audiences around June or July. And since then, we're just seeing Eclipse everywhere. They have a tagline, Eclipse everything. And all of this was done ahead of their mainnet. And the other thing to call out too is just the coherency in colors, visual identity, and also affiliate badges. So you'll see the Eclipse logo everywhere. And this is a whole list of their head of strategy explaining exactly what the strategy is, which is all of them are tweeting a lot more, and they're doing it in different niches based on what they are well known or really, really adept at. So for example, Nate posts really great marketing content, and that allows him to tap into a different audience than maybe a developer or somebody that has a lot of meme coin trading experience. The other thing you can look at as well is, this is kind of the scan of news, and everything here is purely, there is Andy there, but the rest are partners or other projects or PR. But you could look in Kaito and look at mentions across the board from individual people, and you can see if they're calling out Eclipse, similar to this post here by Polina, which was calling out their marketing. So all of that adds to mindshare and attention, and you can see it clearly on the graph that it's working. For any of the Eclipse team members that are noted as a crypto KOL, similar, like VJ is the founder and he is noted as that, you can also see how consistent his mindshare bars are now that he has started to tweet alongside the rest of the team consistently every week. So this is just a real life example of being able to track results, and I likely cannot fit it all here, but let's say that I am wanting the whole hype team to post nonstop. The way I would measure this is I would look at our hype native Twitter account and just see how that graph is going up or down and what content people are resonating with. I would also do that individually for every team member, and I would track our collective mindshare via a tool like Kaito and see how many people are mentioning hype or any other company. And also, you can look very individually. So high level, it would be looking at hype. Like in this case, high level, it's looking at Eclipse. But you could zoom in and focus in on, hey, Nate, the marketing content is crushing it. Post more. Or maybe a few more of us should post marketing. Or maybe we should iterate the content or change it to a different niche. So you can really zoom in and out. Like the main goal in this case is mindshare for Eclipse. But there are different pieces of the puzzle that make that up. So being able to track those different parts and moving gears allows you to know what to optimize, improve on, double down on, or do less of. Okay, cool. This is another real life example. This is some of the more, I would call, advanced analytics tools that you can use. And this is old screenshots from our old dashboards back in 2022. We used Tableau at Hype. Tableau is a business intelligence tool. And the main thing I wanted to show with this is, number one, I want to call out that data-driven marketing is not new whatsoever. It is very primitive and in its early stages in crypto marketing. Like I said, there's been many projects that I've seen that don't even have Google Analytics installed. And it makes me really sad. However, the world I came from before this, there's been crazy dashboards I've seen. I remember companies that are selling on Amazon. They're selling in retail. That could be Walmart, Target, Costco. They're also selling D2C on their own website. They're doing PR, they're doing email marketing, they're doing lifecycle marketing. They might be doing TV marketing. They might be doing billboards. How do you track all of this? And they would use tools like this. So they would use like a Tableau or a Domo or a Looker, and they would be able to piece together different stories. Anything that has an API or sits in a server or is being tracked or measured or something can be put into a dashboard like this, and you can tell new stories, or you can tell a more coherent story. Not a new story, but a coherent story. So it's essentially reordering things around. So the main things I wanted to show is what is possible. You have all this data, and really in crypto, you probably don't need this. This is overkill. It's also why we don't really use this anymore, because you can keep it really simple. Kaito, X Analytics, some blockchain explorer, or on-chain dashboard for on-chain analytics, and Google Analytics. Just 3 or 4 in your tool stack and you could be good. But you can see here, this allowed us to pull everything in from email, Facebook, Google Ads across shopping, Performance Max, organic, Twitter. We were able to see the blended CAC or CPA and ROAS across the whole board, where all of the spend is, what is the total blended or macro conversion rate. We are also pulling in Shopify metrics here alongside Google Analytics metrics. As you can see, there's a discrepancy already, but all of this is to really understand what the hell is going on. I personally, as a marketer, love to see period over period tables and charts. So down here is a period over period comparison, and in these dashboards, we could filter them by day, day over day, week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter. This really allows me to see what is happening on a day-to-day level. So there could be a day where, boom, there's like 50,000 impressions, or 20 new developers are reaching out. If you see a spike like that, you can look into that day and zoom in and understand what happened. Did someone talk about us on a podcast? Did someone post a video about us on YouTube? Did someone just go crazy with referring? All of this can help you find trends and understand what is making up those trends. If you're also noticing that the number is going down day over day, then you can troubleshoot and figure out what is happening. On the right here, I wanted to show that not just numbers, so numbers can be pulled in, but you can also pull in qualitative, you can pull in ads, you can pull in creative. So literally anything you can pull in. This is a dashboard we created where we could pull in ads across from Facebook, image ads, video ads, their exact copy, YouTube, and Google, and we can understand what is converting. And what's really cool is these different ads had different terms. So this is back in 2022. We were talking about bringing on the next 1 billion, which is down here, and you can see all of the different, all of the different metrics for that. So yeah, you can do a lot with data. Awesome. So at GTMCon, there was a bit more slides. We got into the nuance of a tech stack for a crypto project. But I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment, reach out to me on X. And thank you for watching.